James Goody. All right. I think we're here. Great Beyond. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to our first ever live stream of the Great Beyond podcast. Still not a Goose podcast. My name is Greg Knight. I'm here with my co-host Bruce Robinson, and we'd like to welcome you to this little experiment we're throwing because we have some great news for all of you. We know it's been a long time coming since you've heard from us, and we do apologize, but we've heard the screamings for more Bruce and El Goose, so we've decided to take this project to the next level and team up with the leading storyteller in music, Osiris Media, to deliver an all-new, but not really that new, bright and shiny, but slightly dull, not a Goose podcast, The Great Beyond. We want to also just give a shout out to our third host, Joey Parisi, who could not make it today for the exciting announcement, but he did all the work getting this outline together.
Yeah, Joey's currently stuck in corporate hell, which I've freed myself from somehow for this. So, and I will say also that much to my satisfaction, we will continue to not be a Goose podcast in 2022. We all know, the problems that could bring, but we will be an Osiris podcast, and we are quite happy about that. So as such, we wanted to extend the warmest of thank yous to RJB, Tom Marshall, Brian Brinkman, Matt Dwyer, and everyone at Osiris for for taking a chance on the lowly junior and senior analysts. I wouldn't call senior lowly, of the Bingo Tour Separate Team Turned podcast. So but this is not only a great step for us as a podcast, but Goose fans as a whole, to now be represented in a top tier broadcasting group.
So is this a proverbial podcast torch passing?
I would call it that. Yes. I would. I'm not allowed to light torches in my apartment, but I'd have one burning behind me if I could. And this isn't the first time Goose has been represented in Osiris. So if you're a Goose fan and would like to take listen to some past Goose interviews, check out RJ's interview with the 4-piece version of the band back from November 12th, 2019, in an episode of The Drop. Rick and Peter were also interviewed live by Tom and RJ Under the Scales from the Brooklyn Bell House in January 2020, where we were treated to some pre-pandemic Rebelo with an absolutely killer rendition of Birds of a Feather.
Don't sell that Brian and Robert short. That Brian and Robert slap.
No, that was awesome too. I mean, that whole experience was quite cool to see in Brooklyn that night. So yeah, great pre-pandemic Rebelo show for sure.
Those were the days. The Helping Friendly podcast also interviewed Ben in December 2020 for episode 188. So check out all those episodes, but none more important than the future episodes of this podcast that we'll bring to you every other Wednesday, ideally, along with some next day analysis of shows from not only us, but a wide variety of guest hosts to take over when events like weddings and birthdays get in the way of our dedication to this podcast. So yeah, shout out to some people in the chat. I think we have some potential hosts. Would love to see Gamby and the Gong Gang, as well as Ryan Storm, and maybe Jacob.
Gong Gang for life.
Gong Gang for life.
Yeah.
But enough about us. I want to hear in the chat just some episode topics to host on this podcast as we move forward, since Bruce is quickly running out of ideas.
I never had any to begin with. My idea was to utilize Joey to come up with ideas, and now we have Osiris helping us come up with ideas. So I can be literally just have a void in my head, and we're good to go. But yeah, any ideas that the fans might have, we're also interested in. So
got a blank space where his mind should be. Hello, Fish fans. So let's
quote that band in here.
Haven't heard of him. So let's dig into Born. Let's dig into Born, the new single out on all streaming platforms. Check it out. Certainly moving in a bit of an indie groove direction, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, as far as I know of Indie Groove, yes, and I don't know if they're the only ones, but so yeah, I mean, part of that, and I have a lot of notes. We had some stimulating conversation on
absolutely titillating conversation today.
Yeah, one of our fans, Darren, threw up a thread just asking for opinions on Born, and a lot of people had opinions, and it was actually a pretty good. People were. Trying to be respectful and offering their honest takes, and got a lot analysis.
Expert analysis.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
But one of the things that led me to that was that that indie style has been something I think a lot of us that have been around the band for a while have kind of always noticed or heard in a lot of their music. And even though their shows tend to be, they always had this really party vibe and fun, upbeat kind of atmosphere to them. Their music has really always had these hints of indie rock in there. And that's why when they did write up that original description, indie groove, it wasn't surprising. And, to me, some of this direction isn't really something that is all that surprising. They just have access to things now that they didn't. They have time to spend in the studio that they didn't. They have more studio experience that they didn't used to. So I think this is just more along the lines of what Rick and the band have wanted to craft for themselves for a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think literally if you listen to any band, sound certainly evolves and moves in a bunch of different directions. As Bruce mentioned, the indie influence has been something that has certainly been heavy in Rick and Peter's songwriting for years and years. But yeah, I want to kind of dig into some of the details around Born, since a lot of people have been asking. This song was done with a brand new producer, someone that they've never worked with before. Shenanigans Nightclub and Moon Cabin were both engineered and heavily produced by Kenny Cash at Factory Underground in Norwalk, Connecticut. Shout out to Kenny. Great Beyond episode 4. Tune in and listen to our interview with Kenny.
It's great conversation with Kenny.
Great conversation. But this track was recorded with D. James Goodwin at the Isocon in Woodstock, New York. And D. James Goodwin, I actually was lucky enough to ignore the band's request for no friends to come up to the studio and completely insert myself into this recording process. Went up and checked out the room. Incredible location, just set in the woods in Woodstock. And Goodwin was an incredible person to see work. No shortage of instruments I've never seen before that he uses to craft soundscapes. And, it was cool to see the guys kind of be really hands off with the creation of stuff, as opposed to, Rick, who I think would, kind of just be in the studio doing this all himself if he could, but really to see them hands off, letting someone guide the direction. So Goodwin actually played pedal steel on the track because he can play just about every instrument.
That's cool. A lot of people were asking about that, but yeah, it was actually a producer.
And I don't know if this bodes another album, per se, because as their publicist, I don't know about any of this stuff coming up. I just tend to find
NDAs are incredible. How they work.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, I really, I think one of the things that people pointed out is that it certainly sounded like the end of the song had that classic Goose gonna try to transition into a next song, or maybe be a jam vehicle or whatnot. So really interested to see kind of where this song will end up living in the catalog, and if it's one that will be reserved for breaking out the acoustics live, or how it'll kind of sound in the electric setting.
Yeah, one of the things too that I've noticed, because I think another fan of ours, Nick, posted on El Goose about the producer, since everyone
fan of ours.
Fan of the band. Fan of Goose.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he's a fan of mine. No, I'm a big fan of Nick's anyway, too. So shout out to Nick. But he posted the Wikipedia article that's actually about D. James Goodwin. Mm-hmm. And there's a really interesting little line in that about how he's known for his quirky approach to recording. I have it up here. And with a bevy of strange instruments and technical devices, the facility is installed in a mid-century residential home, set up in such a way that artists are made to feel as though they are away on a vacation in the woods of upstate New York, surrounded by numerous instruments, toys, manipulation devices aimed at assisting Goodwin in making adventurous recordings without worrying about the clock or time constraints of a typical studio. And we know how Goose does with time constraints.
Oh my gosh.
Poorly. Terribly.
But show is supposed to be announced at 10 a.m.
I don't think Goose is ever worried about the clock.
Right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because like that other stuff is exactly what, again, they haven't always had. Maybe they never had, all of these instruments and all of these possibilities for what they could do in the studio, and working with somebody, a professional that's well known and experienced, like this D. James Goodwin, and having a place like that where they could go. There's a big thing, and most of these fans now know this, that the band really feeds well off of vibe of certain places,
Mm-hmm.
And some of that down home kind of country feel, laid back around nature, like Legend Valley, it's just a huge farm, and all these places like that, they tend to always play well. It's because they really connect well with that environment. And I think, that's what the level of production on this album, people could already tell, is is a whole nother level. It's taking another step in the right direction, with the track sounding so polished, and I think that, there's a lot of good that can come from them doing stuff like this and trying to experiment a little bit more and use some of those devices. Pedal steel is definitely something that they've never had on the track. So, in that sense too, they have somebody that could play with them. Again, experienced musician that can weave it in such a way that's kind of what Rick maybe wanted and didn't have the option to have before.
Absolutely. And I think, what people may have picked up from the lucky viewers of Shenanigans Nightclub, the movie, shout out to you, Clyde. Shenanigans
One
Nightclub,
of my best roles.
yes, from Hamlet to Silver Screen. So Shenanigans Nightclub, I think what you kind of pick up from the whole summative assessment of the project, from the trailer to the film, is that it was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek testament, I think, to the club itself that was thriving in the 80s and early 90s, and just, I think, a testament to what kind of ushered the band to where they are now, and everything that came into, making them believe it's a good decision to cover as much Kenny Loggins as they do. Born seems to be a completely new direction for them, and so I'm interested. But just to piggyback on that kind of down home country living sound, they need Trevor to feel comfortable in that mullet, and I think they found the perfect music.
Yeah. God, that mullet's incredible.
Interesting to see, kind of what comes next, and what this will lead to. But as we mentioned, it would not be an announcement day for the band if we didn't have an announcement ourselves. Radio City Music Hall, big room. I'm a huge Rock Hat enthusiast, so it'll be good to get there and see a different show. I did actually get there this year to see Trey's hybrid tab band perform. Was fun little.
Oh, right. Yeah, when they were fighting some COVID issues too.
Yeah. I was actually sitting right in front of the sign language interpreter during Jabu. Nice. So I'm like, how are they going to sign Jabu? Is it even a word? But they killed it. I believed it. I don't speak sign language.
Sounds right.
But yeah, I can't wait to see confused tourists wading through a sea of balloons after the show. Should be interesting to see.
I'm excited for that, actually. Sorry.
And one kind of important, not even important, but I guess maybe these live shows will just be me giving fun facts that I know. Radio City and Rockefeller Center are owned by the same people. Same kind of conglomerate involved with the whole thing. So I think perhaps there's some connection there to how the show has happened. Bruce, you seen any cool show at Radio Cities?
No, I've never even
Radio City.
Never been there for a show, and my entire life, I wanted to go see the Rockettes for obvious reasons, but I could never go. So, I'm more interested in hearing how the Rockettes were from you, because it's always been a dream of mine. But anyway, I've never been, so I'm definitely really excited about this announcement. I will definitely be getting down there for Goose to see them play, and hopefully more shows come out of that too in the future, and maybe they get multiple nights at some point. So
yeah, I'm really, really excited for it. I am supposed to be on a bike trip through Yellowstone the following day. I'm supposed to be in Montana the next morning. So wish me luck, as well as my in-laws. Bruce, you want to
be in great biking shape?
I'm going to be in excellent biking shape for sure. I need an e-bike for this. So why don't we do a giveaway? Let's do a ticket giveaway.
Is it giving it to me, or it's giving it?
No, absolutely. You were buying your tickets. But since we're so good at doing giveaways for our fans, I am going to pose my favorite trivia question. We may have asked it during bingo tours to some of you who tuned in, if you remember, are in the running for this. But I want to know, and do not say it in the chat, I want you guys to email us at greatbeyondpodcast@gmail.com.
Making this hard.
Greatbeyondpodcast@gmail.com. That's step one. First person, email greatbeyondpodcast@gmail.com. The first person to tell us the first song that Peter ever performed with Goose, ever performed with Goose, email that song to greatbeyondpodcast@gmail.com. The first person to get it wins a pair of tickets to Radio City Music Hall.
A pair.
Good
Nosebleed
seats?
tickets?
I don't know. Good seats? Who
Oh,
knows?
cool.
Yeah,
Just
we'll
a
find
random
out.
grab bag.
Yeah, Bruce, feel free to email. You're more than welcome. To email as
What
well.
was the question? It was about Peter. I don't know it. It's fine.
The-
If somebody else. I don't know.
So we're excited. We will see you guys all on June 25th. For those of you who had the chance to meet up with us at Westville, perhaps we'll do another red carpet. That could be a whole lot of fun.
That was a
But
ton of fun. You remember we had a video from that with all the interviews?
Yeah. So shout out to Sam Shovlin. We'll get that out by the 1 year anniversary of Westville. Tune in to see yourselves. All right. So we're already getting some answers in. You guys are way better at email than we are. And thus far, nobody's got it correct. So again, this is the first song Peter ever played with Goose. He's seeing a lot of answers related to the song that they played instead of Auld Lang Syne. Okay. We've got a winner already.
Oh, wow. Already.
We've got a winner already. There are actually
power
people,
of the internet.
There are people listening.
That's incredible. That's the most incredible thing about it. Nice. I'm glad they won.
Our winner is, and Jeff, sorry if I butcher this, Jeff Pachenik. Jeff, he got it right.
Jeff.
Peter's first song with Goose was actually Arcadia. Oh
wow.
Peter played Arcadia with Goose in November of 2017. Goose was on tour. They were in North Carolina, and Trevor had to use the bathroom during the last song of their set. Peter happened to be there because his band Great Blue was opening, and Trevor passed off his bass to Peter, and Peter played bass during the end of Arcadia.
Nice. Trevor had to go pretty bad.
But for those of you who answered Circle of Life was actually the first song Goose ever played, surprisingly. I
was so drunk that show, I would not remember.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
So that was the first song they ever played. Ever. So shout out to you as Goose. So shout out to you, Jeff. Thought it was actually just Jeff Arevalo trying to get to the show as well.
No.
But yeah.
Shout out to Jeff and his lovely wife Laura. I know them; they're great people. So shout out.
But it does look like, in the chat, people are saying that on the Jam Base podcast, they said it was Circle of Life. So we may have to do a little bit of checking, which would require us to listen to the Jam Base podcast.
Who said it was super? We're gonna have to have some podcast fight outside in one of these days with them. See where this is going.
I guess we'll have to fill you guys in the next time we're live. So tune in the next time we're live. So what else we got? Winter Tour it's about to hit, right? Winter Tour's hit. I guess next week we're starting in Tempe, Arizona. Unfortunately, to our Colorado folks, the Arevalo shows were canceled. However, I know the guys are looking forward to hitting it hard out on the West Coast. Bruce, you doing any Winter Tour?
I'm not, and just to add that those Arevalo shows in Steamboat and out in Colorado would have been a lot of fun. But so that's too bad. But I can't make any of the Winter Tour this year. Unfortunately, I have to save up for the rest of the year of tour.
Right.
But I will be watching. Definitely, I will be streaming these shows, and I expect some cool things to come out of it. Obviously, that's their first time headlining out west. It's a bit of a smaller tour on the West Coast, and then they kind of squeeze into Montana and go through the Northwest a little bit. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a great tour. I think it's a great opportunity for them. Looking forward to, I'm hoping that with their latest success and, how well they've been winning over fans in a lot of new locations, that this just continues to grow their presence out there. And, I'm hoping to make the next time that they go out, which I do expect, to happen in the near future. So I'll be looking forward to that. But you're going out.
I
soon,
did.
right?
So I decided to go out in about October. Then with the rise of Omicron, I decided in December not to go. And having really not left these four walls around me since around Christmas, I decided in conjunction with the JetBlue sale that I'd head out to LA and San Francisco. So I'll be out there. Feel free to email us at greatbeyondpodcast@gmail.com if you guys want to meet up. I will try to be conducting some interviews from the field, although I cannot recreate the magic of our third co-host Joey Parisi. I'll do my best. This will be my first time.
Tough. It's tough to stand up. Yeah.
But this is going to be my first time out on the West Coast in conjunction with Goose. This is their first headlining tour out on the West Coast as well. So really excited to meet some West Coast fans. The last time they went out there was with Pigeons in early 2020, just after Playing in the Sand. So, looking forward to seeing all you silver ponytail deadheads out there too. Should be a lot of
special ones lined up.
Should be a whole lot of fun. But
I'll never know the joy of having a very silver ponytail. I could try. Maybe one strand would grow and it would be pretty heady, but I don't know. We'll see.
We can all dream. But I think let's wrap it up now, because basically everyone tuning in is going to see a whole lot of us this spring. So let's not exhaust the masses now. And I guess we'll listen back to some early shows and make sure we got the trivia question right.
Can't wait to see how wrong we are. I hope it's not us.
It's never us. So be on the lookout for the release of our first all-new episode coming out Wednesday, January 26th. And then every other Wednesday after that. We want to thank every single one of you who tuned into our original episodes, because obviously it got us here, and we are looking forward to providing as much content as we possibly can to all of you who care to listen. We may or may not find episode 2 and release it.
We're not going to find it. FYI, it's gone.
Still lost. It's still lost.
Absolutely.
So as always, shout out to our producer Robbie Chemical and our manager, now known as Kathleen Knight, who will remain with us through this transition, though we haven't had any mimosas today. Bruce, you want to close it out?
Be sure to catch a ride with us next time down the pathway to the Great Beyond.
The Great Beyond.
Thank you, everybody.